We are being very careful with what we report, what we learn, making sure that we're doing this the right way. So we want our viewers to know that tonight as we continue to try to confirm more information that we've learned behind the scenes as well. But here is what we know at this hour, confirmed by an inside source. Investigators believe that this was a burglary gone wrong. Now, we have interviewed multiple experts since this began who said they don't believe this was an intended kidnapping either.
We don't have a ransom note that has a recent photo of Nancy attached to it. It makes me skeptical about a lot of these things.
Our next guest has proposed a new theory on what could have happened to Nancy Guthrie. We'll sum it up for you, but we warned that this may be difficult for some of people to hear. Our guest believes that whoever is writing TMZ with these notes and looking for Bitcoin in exchange for information is the person who took Nancy.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear thoughts build up until I can't feel. My mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear.
It's day 21 of the Nancy Guthrie case, and I think the pertinent question to ask is, what is the most significant evidence so far? In over 3 weeks, what has come through as the most important evidence in this case? I think I've got an idea of what happened in this case. I'm going to take you through the reasoning in order to get to that particular point.
In one search, the FBI seized a gray Range Rover about 2 miles away from Nancy Guthrie's home. Investigators were seen taking photos and collecting evidence before towing the car away. Investigators detained at least 4 people Friday night for questioning, but they were later released.
We're learning more about the investigation into Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. Over the weekend, there's been a flurry of activity by investigators, but
we seem to be hearing the same thing in a different chronology over and over again. Doesn't it feel that way? Jennifer Coffindaffer told Newsweek today that she thinks the Range Rover that was seized, and by the way, it's apparently still in custody, is the most significant lead for law enforcement at the moment. According to Newsweek, Coffindaffer added, "What I think is most disconcerting is the fact that they put a tarp on the back when they opened up that vehicle. I believe that's because of something they saw in that vehicle, and they were concerned for witnesses, passers-by, YouTubers, everyone else who was around the scene to see what was inside that vehicle."
Investigators were seen taking photos and collecting evidence before towing the car away.
I don't know about you, but that tarp made me think they'd actually found Nancy deceased inside the trunk of that vehicle. But there's no way that's the case. If Nancy had been found, we'd have known that by now. The Range Rover was seized a week ago.
Investigators have set up a white tent in front of the home of Nancy Guthrie. The 84-year-old mother of Today's Show host Savannah Guthrie has not been seen since January 31st. So as you can see here, the tent is placed directly in front of the front door to Guthrie's Tucson home. As the search for Guthrie now enters its 12th day, officials are now reaching out to her neighbors to request.
The tarp blocking the view of the media was also a repeat of the tent on the porch, something else that seemed like a major development that ended up being a false alarm. Folks have also been speculating that DNA would make a breakthrough in this case, but that hasn't happened either. According to Newsweek, Coffindaffer said that investigators may also be hoping to see if DNA evidence recovered from the vehicle may match other DNA evidence in this case. Well, it hasn't happened in terms of the DNA testing of this vehicle either. Now, The Times, a British publication, also has some interesting analysis on this case. The Times have interviewed yet another FBI agent who has yet another different view of the case. Have a look at this. Phil Roberts, a 27-year veteran of the Phoenix Police Department, has investigated more than 100 extortion-related kidnappings. He does not believe the evidence points to a ransom, rather a botched home invasion, probably by amateur criminals who panicked during the robbery. Now, I agree with Roberts that we are not looking at a crime for ransom, and if anyone would know, it's someone who's dealt with over 100 of these in that area. But if it's not a crime for ransom, if that is the case, then every single one of those ransom demands are bogus, and Roberts also echoes this view. Roberts casts doubt on the ransom theory. He says, based on my expertise in this area, I would tell you that every single ransom demand at this point is bogus because there's no proof of life. The Times also provides some valuable woods overview of this case as opposed to the trees, the details of the trees and the leaves. The woods overview gives us an idea of the people in it and really what is going on in a general sense. Sometimes the American media seem to get lost in the leaves and forget about the bigger picture. So have a look at this. Savannah is one of the most recognizable faces on American television. She's a respected journalist and a regular inside millions of homes each morning. In Tucson, Savannah is admired as a local girl done good. The largely working-class city of about 554,000 people is surrounded by rugged mountains and the Sonoran Desert. The growing suburbs are home to wealthy retirees. I didn't know that. I didn't know that Tucson is a mostly working-class city, but also popular with wealthy retirees. So surely it must irk some of the folk, especially the blue-collar folk who live there, who work there, that these wealthy older people are in their midst, living the life, luxuriating, and they've reached their happily ever after while those around them struggle and sweat to get there. And in the same way that America seems to be changing, this neighborhood where Nancy was taken is changing as well, in fact, in front of our eyes. Jeff Lamy, a neighbor, was walking his dogs before sunset and said the area had transformed in recent weeks. He said it was peaceful and safe. In the summer, when it's very warm, folks will jog at 10, 11 at night. They walk their dogs. It's bucolic. It's a wonderful place to live. So what is Roberts' view as a veteran and as an expert? What really happened here? The evidence suggests an amateur attempt at a home invasion. I definitely agree with the word amateur there. That ended in death, according to Roberts. Kidnap extortion cases usually involve the victim's phone being taken. Well observed there. Tellingly, police found Guthrie's device at her home after the disappearance, and that is very telling. I think it was going to be a home invasion robbery of an elderly woman, and they were going to try to take some money or jewelry and flee, Roberts said. Such crimes are far more common than kidnappings, he added. While only one suspect was caught on camera, Roberts believes that more people were involved. Now, to me, some of that makes sense. It does seem like something went wrong, doesn't it? But I'm just not convinced that this was a burglary gone wrong. Why was absolutely nothing stolen? On this point, Coffindaffer also seems to concur in that she doesn't think this was a burglary or a burglary gone wrong. In this post on X, she writes, was this your garden variety burglary that just went wrong? I don't think so. Why? No one goes to burglarize a house with a full backpack. No one picks a house set way off the street with an unusual entry and a camera when other houses don't have cameras. Most burglaries occur during the day, not in the witching hour. Porch Guy was way too casual, not a care in the world. More burglars are swift. In and out, no lollygagging. Burglars don't steal 84-year-old grandmas. They steal things, and Porch Guy didn't do that here. I'm also not sure that more people were involved. Anyway, Roberts goes on to say, they may have put her in the trunk of the car and drove to a local ATM. By the way, this whole ATM aspect was something I also suggested. She may have had a heart attack and they didn't know what to do and they freaked out. Now, by the way, Roberts would know that this ATM thing is common because he's worked 100 of these cases, more than 100 of these cases.
You know what I think.
So I've already dealt with a potential political motive, which is the same as a grievance motive, in a different video. I'm not going to be dealing with that here, but literally how I think this crime played out. So here's what I think. And let's put these words on screen. I think there's more evidence that the motive here was grievance, and that includes a political grievance, than a burglary or a kidnapping. Consider the following. No evidence of a burglary, nothing stolen despite plenty of opportunity, plenty of time, more than 40 minutes to steal something. Also, no evidence of a kidnapping for ransom, no communication with proof of life, no urgency. Kidnapping cases are typically solved in hours or just a few days. We're heading into the 4th week now. We do have evidence of a grievance right there on the porch. Nancy appears to have been struck in the nose or face on the front porch, even though that's not where the intruder entered. This blood spatter at the front door offers us the best evidence in this case because it reveals to us, firstly, the type of person we are dealing with, also the animus against Nancy, and then the type of crime we are dealing with and the type of crime we aren't dealing with. Based on that, you may well ask, if the motive was a grievance, why take Nancy? Why not settle it then and there? Well, all of this suggests that the suspect took Nancy by force from the back door to the front door, showed her the camera, and wanted something from her. Perhaps he wanted access to the camera's software or some other way to remove that software, remove that footage, or even to remove the camera. But it's clear the camera was a real bugbear for him, and why wouldn't it be? The footage we have is arguably the best or second best evidence of the suspect besides what he did to Nancy on the porch. So if you say, what is the most important lead in this case? I would say that blood spatter, which shows us the kind of person we're dealing with. And then the second best evidence, this person dressed up in a way that we can't recognize him, but we're actually seeing him on camera. We see that he's an amateur. We see that he's young. We see that he's casual. Now, to reiterate, all of this means there is more evidence of a grievance motive than a burglary motive. Now, that evidence is injury to Nancy likely to her face. There's no evidence, as I say, of anything that was stolen when the suspect had plenty of opportunity to steal whatever he wanted. Again, you may say, all right, if the motive was a grievance, why take Nancy? Why not settle it then and there? Well, possibly because one or two things happened that really aggravated the attacker. First, it was being caught on her camera. Second, the attacker's patience or impatience with Nancy wore through. He was asking her for this footage, and she wasn't able to give it to him. And he decided to take Nancy elsewhere to complete the score he meant to settle with her. I think that shows this was personal in some way. There's also another potential scenario, that our suspect kidnapped Nancy for ransom, but then something went wrong. That something that went wrong was getting caught on her camera, confronting her on it, her not being able to resolve the situation. He likely didn't believe the subscription story, which angered him. So he wasn't able to get this footage and destroy it. This angered him. He hits her in the face. She's an 84-year-old with a heart condition. Possibly she died right there on the porch, and the suspect knew he couldn't just leave her lying there. Or after having been struck inside the vehicle, Nancy panicked, perhaps had a panic attack, had a heart attack, and that's what foiled the kidnapping. What do you think? Does that make sense? The best theory is a theory that incorporates all the information, all the contradictions in a way that somehow does make sense out of it. So what do you think of this particular theory? Well, I'm not going to take it further than that. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.